Yes.
Your Lordship, the only issue in this.
No. Issues are, many. But you tell us when you passed your first year chemistry? When? Give us the dates.
Yes, Your Lordship. Your Lordship, the session of this appellate was 2013-14.
Yes.
Thereafter, Your Lordship, first part 1 examination of 2014 was held in January 2015, which the appellant cleared.
Yes.
Thereafter, Your Lordship, the appellant taken admission in part 2. Part 2 examination of 2015 was held in July 2016. The appellant passed in two subjects.
He passed
Thereafter,
in 2 subjects or failed in 2 subjects?
passed in 2 subjects, failed in 2 subjects. Your
तो
Lordship.
आप जो फेल करने वाला है वो बताइए ना.
2 subjects, था ना? 2 subjects, Your
He
Lordship.
failed in 2 subjects.
Yes, Your Lordship.
All right.
Thereafter,
But he was admitted to part 3.
admitted to part 3 in July 2016. Thereafter, Your Lordship, the appellant again appear in 2016 part 2 examination, which was held in November 2017 and qualify in math subject.
Mr. Anurag, you are telling the court about you are having passed an examination. Which examination have you failed would be the clinching fact, no?
Your Lordship, only one examination he appeared in 2016, that is in maths. Your Lordship, he qualified.
We'll ask.
In the counter affidavit, my lords will find a chart. The counter affidavit filed at the writ petition.
Counter affidavit filed when?
Writ petition, my lords.
Of the writ petition.
My lords. Marks of each and every page number 2, my lords will find the chart, and it will continue. Number 4, my lords.
Just.
My lords.
Paragraph 5 is the chart.
My lords.
BSc part 1 examination. Result he passed. BSc part 2 examination in 2015.
Chemistry, my lords, it has been highlighted.
He failed in chemistry and mathematics.
My lord.
Subsidiary subjects.
My lords.
So this was BSc part 2 examination.
My lords.
2015. Then he appeared in 2016. He failed in chemistry honors.
My lords. In 17 he did not appear, my
In
lords.
17 he did not appear.
In 18 he cleared, my lords.
In 18 he cleared BSc part 2.
My lords.
Part 2, Your Lordship.
2018 he
My
cleared.
lord.
All right. So, and what is the difficulty? And he also wrote simultaneously part 3.
My lords.
When did you write your part 3 examination?
Your Lordship, part 3 in 2019, exam held in 2020, Your Lordship.
2020. So before the part 3 examination, he had passed in all part 2.
Part 2 examination, Your Lordship.
Then what is the objection of the university?
That is the, my lords, in that counter affidavit the regulation is there, my lords.
Regulation says that he should not
He
have
should-
been admitted to part 2.
No, my lords. If he will clear part, if he will be disqualified in part 1, he will be promoted to part 2, my lords. But he will have to clear that within 3 years, my lords.
So 3 years cap he has
My
crossed.
lords. And then in part 2, my lords, he has failed in 2016, my lords are fine. He was promoted to part 3, my lords. For that, he will also have to clear within 3 years, my lords.
I couldn't hear you. Your mask is.
My lords, in part 3, my lords, he was promoted in 2016.
Part 3 he was promoted in 2016.
Since as per regulation, he will have to be promoted, my lords. But he will have to clear that within 3 years, my lords. In part 2, my lords, since he was
16,
promoted in
17,
2000,
So at best he should have passed his examination in 2019, provided you would have held the examination in 2019. Have you conducted the examination in 2019?
the session is delayed everywhere, my lords.
And that's all right. So
My lords.
therefore it would be counted as session within 3
For-
years.
So that examination is of 15 examination,
Shows the rules.
my lords.
Now we would not be permitting a student who keeps on failing to have his result declared. But if the rules permit, then perhaps you can't stop him. Shows the rules.
I am here with my lords, in judgments in favor of me, against me. My lords, I will be requesting my lords to decide, my lords.
Meher Kumar Jha, Kurukshetra University, these are cases which
No, my lords.
everybody.
Honorable the
quotes.
then Chief Justice, Justice A.P. Sai has decided, and 1990 of the Supreme Court, my lords, Behrampur University is there.
Both sides.
My lords.
both sides you have the judgment, tell us where are the rules.
My lords,
We would not permit a student who keeps on failing every year to have his result
my
published.
lords will come to page 12 of the counter affidavit, my lords.
Yes,
Examination, regulation 7.1,
yes.
my lords. There shall be a university examination. Last two lines, my lords,
There shall-
provided.
Read the whole of it.
My lords, there shall be a university exam. My lords, the type copy is also there, my lords. If my lords,
Padhiye, it is quite legible to us.
there shall be a university examination at the end of the first, the second, and the third year of the studies, to be known respectively as BSc General so and so, BSc Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 examination. No student shall be admitted to BSc General or BSc Honours Part 2 class unless he has passed the BSc General or BSc Honours Part 1 examination, and to the Part 3 class unless he has passed the Part 2 examination, provided that if the student fails in or fails to appear at not more than 2 subjects at the BSc General Honours Part 2 1 or 2 examination, he shall be promoted to the next higher class, but he shall not be eligible for admission to BSc General so and so Part 3 class unless he has passed the BSc General or BSc Honours Part 1 examination in the subject concerned, provided further that this facility for appearing in such carryover subjects shall be available to students at not more than 3 consecutive examinations.
Now what does it mean?
My lords, he has appeared
This
in,
proviso admits of some confusion, provided further that the facility for appearing in such carryover subjects shall be available to a student at not more than 3 consecutive occasions. Now here the
he has
situation-
appeared in 2015, 16 and
Just a
17.
minute.
My
He
lords.
first appears in 2014 session. In January 2014
My
he
lord.
passes, there's no difficulty.
No.
Now in part 2, the examination was conducted, though the session is 2015, examination was in 2016, where he failed in 2 subjects, therefore the proviso would apply. He could be promoted to the next higher class, subject to his passing the test in the meanwhile. So he again fails in 2017, right?
My lords, right. He fails in 2000, he appears in 2015.
No. 2015 session, the examination you have taken in July 2016.
My lords.
So he
But the
failed in
session-
2 subjects.
But the session can.
एक second,
जी
आप university है ना, you are don't if there is even slightest scope for the student, we will read it.
I will also be with my
all
lords
right.
that
So therefore
the result should be published, my lords.
Therefore don't unnecessarily
My
raise
lords.
objection. Now in 2017,
My lords.
which is his second attempt
My lords.
for part 2 examination, he fails in 1 subject.
My lords.
Then what happens? He is admitted to part 3.
My lords.
Part 3, admission in part 3 is not prohibited even though he has not passed, for the reason of the second proviso. Now read the first
My lords.
proviso. Read the first proviso.
My lords. Provided that if a student fails or fails to appear at not more than 2 subjects at BSc General Honours Part 1, Part 2 examination, he shall be promoted to the next higher class, but he shall not be eligible for admission to the BSc General or BSc Honours Part 3 class unless he has passed the BSc General or BSc
So
Honours.
therefore for him to get admitted in the highest class of part 3, he needs only to pass first one, part 1.
My lords.
Not necessary that he should clear part
My
2.
lords.
So therefore part 3 he was admitted. Now where is the bar in his not being competent to write the examination of part 3 simultaneously with part 2 and passing in all subjects?
My lords.
हम बार कहाँ है वो दिखाइए. अगर रूल्स नहीं कहता है तो नहीं है, अगर कहता है
As per the university, my lords, he has appeared in the examination of 2015, of 2016, of 2017, and then he passed it in 2018. So that is in 4th attempt, my lords.
नहीं, it should not have been more than 3.
My lords.
Should not have been more than 3.
No.
Now just a minute. He fails in 2016 and he fails in 2017.
Yes. And in 2000.
आप 15 को कहाँ जोड़ रहे हैं?
तो जो
He fails in session is
my
2015.
lords. तो
First time,
सेशन ही जुड़ता है हुजूर.
that's all right.
My lords.
The attempt of the exam. Session जुड़ता है, ये कौन सा logic है? Number of attempts है ना? आप
That-
session 4 साल में. Don't get exasperated, Mr. Ritesh Kumar. You represent the
My
university.
lords.
University looks after the well-being of the students,
My
and
lords.
the judges look after the well-being of the university as well as the students.
My lords.
So therefore, we need to see whether the learned single judge has rightly applied the law. right? Now he makes an attempt once in 2016. Forget about session now. 3 attempts. You don't hold session timely, you can't blame it on the student. Now you have, in your rules, you have given him 3 attempts to pass. Not for admission to part 3, because for that he only requires to pass for part 1. So he fails in 2016. Since he has not failed in more than 2 subjects, he was permitted to appear. Then in 2017 he fails in 1 and then passes in 2018. So how do you calculate 4 attempts?
My lords, so then if my lords will, my lords, then say he appeared in 2016, my lords, then 17, then the 18 exam he did not appear, my lords.
18 exam he did not appear.
Which for the session 2017
he did not appear.
He did not appear. My lords.
That's another question. So therefore it has to be consecutive.
My lords.
No gap.
My lords.
Then what happens to a student like this?
The result is not published, my lords. My lord, if my lords direction will publish.
Tell us
my
the
lords,
rules.
That is the university is bound by the regulations, my
Your
lords.
Lordship, regulation 8 is
Just
there.
a minute. What was the reason for your not writing the examination in 2018, skipping it
Lordship.
and then passing? Then he passes in 2019.
My lords.
Yes.
And he appears in part 3 in 2019 only. And you are not publishing his result for the reason that he has not
3 consecutive attempts.
3 consecutive.
My lords.
Your Lordship, regulation 8
Just
is...
a minute, 3 consecutive years or 3 consecutive chances?
3 consecutive, my lords. My lords will come to page 13, my lords.
Not more than 3 consecutive examinations. So he misses on 1. So why don't we read down or read it effectively that he has to appear in 3 consecutive to pass and not to fail?
It is up to my lords, my lords. We are with the students, my lords.
The question is that where would you will not admit him to part 2, you will not admit him to part 3. So what does he do? He starts afresh from part 1. I'm just asking for a
My lords,
situation.
if his result will not be published, my lords, he will have to appear in the part 3 again and then.
So would it remove the defect so far as his candidature is concerned? No, because then also you will say.
In one of the cases, Honorable Justice Chakradhari sir has directed.
Please don't take the name of the
My
judges. Now, one of the bench is good enough indication that one
My
of the
lord.
benches has
My
done
lord.
that. Now, the same honorable judge has refused to allow his prayer for publishing of the result. Right?
In each every
I just
case,
want
my
to know
lords.
from you. Suppose the same situation continues,
My lords.
and today in the year 2022, he is allowed to write fresh examination for part 3 and he passes.
My lords.
Now, would you permit him? Would you publish his result? Because in the meantime he has passed. Now, what is the way out for him? Suppose because of his he breaking his leg, or for some mishap in the family, he couldn't appear. He is not a good student. It appears from this. He has been failing regularly. But then there has to be some way out. Otherwise, you say you provide of a situation when he starts afresh, right from first, second, third. Like in MD, if somebody fails in one paper, he has to appear in all papers in all semesters, right? So you don't have that kind of a condition. So where would a candidate go? Suppose he has failed for the 3rd time and not consecutively. Then all this result is wiped out. I want to know. I am not questioning you.
My lord, my lords. For that, my lords, there is nothing in that regulation, my lords. I have gone through that. They will have to talk to the controller, my lords.
Now let us see what the single judge has said.
My lords.
And that 2009, he finally passed part 2 examination in 2019.
My lords.
Have you published that result?
But
Have you published that result of part 2 which
my
he has
lords,
passed in
my
2019?
lords, my lords. Part 3 result has also been published, my lord, but keep marking it as pending.
For the reason that he passes in four terms in which one he skipped.
My lords.
He did not fail in 3 consecutive occasions. I think we'll read it differently. The Lent single judge has been rather harsh.
My lords, I will be giving judgments, my lords. My lord can allow it by referring to that. It will be helpful for the university also, my lords, since they do not now want to keep the results pending, my lords. And one of the honorable single judges, my lords, allows that petition. Just one of the single judges dismisses it. It is very difficult for us, my lords.
Entire compilation is given, my lord, in our favor.
Recently, in the 2022, my lords, one of the single judges, my lords, it is reported, has passed an order allowing the results to be published.
Where is that?
My lords, that is, it is, my lords, reported in 2022, volume 2. In that, the division bench judgment is also considered. The Supreme Court judgment of Kurukshetra University in Sri Krishna is also considered.
Where is that? Which is that?
It is page number 55, my lords.
No, we are not going on all this.
My lords. He has considered the Kurukshetra University, Sri Krishnan,
We will not get into this reasoning.
and
We'll not get into this reasoning. We'll only find fault with the
my lords,
order
one-
passed by the learned single judge, and we'll say, considering overall circumstances.
One judgment is there which has directed for publication of result. I was not aware about that. Honorable Justice Sanjeev Prakash Sharma has told Brahmaputra, Behrampur University, my lords. It is of 1990, my lords.
This decision, we will be differing with the learned single judge
It will be,
on a
it will
different
be convenient for the university, my lords. If my lords will consider all the judgment, my.
No. We are not required to, for the reason that from the factual position, we find that there is some anomaly in the order.
My lord.
We are directing for publishing. Yes, what do you have to say?
Your lordship, the regulation 8 is there as per your lordship assistance. Regulation 8 says that if the result is not published or something like that has been happened, the student can appear as a non-collegiate student. ये कहाँ बोले सर? And there is no problem with part 3, your lordship. There is problem with this appellate with part 2 examination.
Be careful. No, we are deciding it on a different issue.
That is also.
We are
my
not
lord-
referring to all those judgments that in our mind is based on different fact positions. Now we will only be interpreting this examination regulation. And we'll decide.
It will be convenient for the university, my lord, since they do not want to keep the results pending, my
We
lords.
decide cases for the parties, not for the institutions
No,
to take
it will-
advantage.
my lords
Again,
can lay down the law, my lords.
the appellant, a student in BN Mandal University, is aggrieved by the fact that his part 3 examination result is not being published for the reason that he could not pass the part 2 examination in 3 consecutive attempts. Stop. The learned single judge, while deciding the writ petition preferred by the appellant, seeking direction to the university to publish the result of part 3 examination, refused to entertain such a request on the ground that it would be giving premium to a student who has not passed the examination of part 2 within 3 consecutive years and has somehow or the other managed to take admission to a higher class of part 3 and has passed and has written and was permitted to write the examination for part 3 in the year 2020. Stop. 2 sets of decisions was referred to by the learned single judge in rejecting the prayer of the petitioner for issuance of any direction to the university for publishing the result of the appellant of part 3 examination. The factual position is as hereunder. The appellant was admitted to BA Honours course in session 2013-14, and for the session 2013-14, examination was held in the month of January 2015, which the appellant had passed. He was admitted to part 2 of the course, and for the session 2015 bracket mein part 2, in the examination which was held in the year 2016, the appellant failed in 2 of the subjects. The appellant thereafter was admitted to the next higher class of part 3, but again failed in the supplementary examination in 2007, but this time in 1 subject. For some reason or the other, he could not appear in the examination of part 2, which was held in the year 2018, but appeared in part 2 examination again in the year 2019, which he has passed. The petitioner, the appellant also has written the examination of part 3 in the year 2020, the result of which has been withheld for the reason that the appellant could not pass the part 2 examination within 3 consecutive years, and therefore the result of part 3 examination was consciously withheld by the university. The learned counsel for the parties have drawn the attention of this court to the examination regulation. क्या है टाइटल इसका?
7 regulation, examination regulation, examination 7.1 and 8.
No. एग्जामिनेशन रेगुलेशन यूनिवर्सिटी का है क्या? वो
जी,
आप शुरू से डॉक्यूमेंट क्यों नहीं लगाते हैं?
शुरू से ही लगाया हुआ है।
Annexure A at page 9, the counter affidavit, where is that examiner? What is the nomenclature of that examination rules?
My lord, the examination regulation of the university, B.N. Mandal University.
Has क्या लिखा है पढ़ो? To the examination regulation of B.N. Mandal University. Stop. Clause 7.1 of the aforesaid regulation provides that the university examination shall be held at the end of the first, second and third years of the course. Stop. No student shall be admitted to the BSc course part 2 class unless he has passed the part 1 examination, and to part 3 class unless he has passed the part 2 examination. Stop. However, there is a proviso to the aforesaid regulation which indicates that if a which further clarifies that if a student fails in, or fails to appear at, not more than 2 subjects in part 1 and part 2 examination, he shall be promoted to the next higher class, but he shall not be eligible for admission to part 3 class unless he has passed the part 1 examination of the subject concerned. The second proviso permits such facility to a student for appearing in carryover subjects only if such a student appears in not more than 3 consecutive examinations. In the present case of the appellant, he was promoted to part 2 of the course after successfully completing part 1 examination, successfully completing and passing in part 1 examination. He failed in 2 consecutive examinations in part 2, but because of the examination regulation permitting any student to get promoted to the next higher class of part 3 if he has passed in part 1, the appellant was given admission in part 3. However, as ill luck would have it, and for which necessary explanation was offered by the appellant before the learned single judge, he could not pass part 2 examination in first instance when he failed in 2 subjects. Since the regulation permits the carryover in case of a candidate failing in not more than 2 subjects, the appellant was promoted to the higher class of part 3 and was also permitted to appear in the next examination which he wrote, which he took in the year 2017. In this instance, the appellant failed in 1 subject. There would have been no difficulty for the appellant if he had again taken the examination in 2018 and would have passed. However, for the reason of some mishap in the family, he could not appear in 2018 examination for part 2, making it 3 consecutive attempts for him to entitle him to appear in part 3 examination and get his result published. Nonetheless, the appellant finally passed the part 2 examination in 2019, thereby passing such part 2 examination within three attempts, but not consecutive. The appellant has also passed in the part 3 examination which was conducted in 2020. The university, the B.N. Mandal University, has not published his result for the reason of the appellant, as noted above, not having cleared part 2 examination in 3 consecutive terms. The learned single judge while taking note of decisions of the High Court both ways, found that the fact scenario in cases where result of such candidates were published were different from the situation which the appellant had faced, where he could not clear his examination within 3 consecutive terms. The learned single judge therefore was of the view that no order could be passed under Article 226 of the Constitution of India in breach of examination regulation, and doing so would only amount to perpetuating an illegality of permitting the appellant to be promoted to a higher class of Part 3. First off, it was also observed by the learned single judge that if the appellant somehow or the other managed to appear in Part 3 examination contrary to the examination regulation, no imprimatur could be given on such concession given to him by the university, divorce and in breach of the rules therein. The learned single judge also held that granting any relief to the appellant would amount to violation of Article 14 of the Constitution of India, as in similar circumstances, similarly situated students might not have been given or might not have availed the opportunity of appearing in Part 3 examination in contravention of the examination regulation. The court was also conscious. The court also consciously directed the Vice Chancellor of the University to cause an inquiry into the circumstance in which the petitioner, in which the appellant was allowed to appear in Part 3 examination in breach of the examination regulation. Breach of the examination regulation. In some of the cases referred to by the learned single judge, the result was directed to be published of the student concerned on the ground that if the university had permitted that student to appear in the examination of the higher class, the result could not have been withheld. In cases where such concession has not been given, the line of reasoning of the courts are that it is no settled principle that if a candidate is allowed to appear in an examination, it is incumbent upon the university and is obligatory on its part to declare the result, for the reason that only on the concession granted by the university, the candidate is in a position to take a particular examination. Thus, not publishing the result in that instance would be accepting a situation where a person is allowed to blow hot and cold in the same breath. An institution is allowed to blow hot and cold in the same breath. However, in cases where, but in a different fact scenario, if a candidate keeps on performing poorly and does not clear the examination every time that he appears, or that he appears after a long gap without any plausible justification, such concession may not be given to such students. On a considered opinion, we find that there is no divergence in the reasoning in both sets of cases. In the examination regulation of B.N. Mandal University, provision has been made for a student to be promoted to higher classes even if he has not cleared the examination. First up. This is for the purposes of accommodating students. First up. Success in an examination is contingent on several factors, and it would not be appropriate and conducive to the career of the students in not permitting them to take admission in higher class, but on their ultimately clearing the examination for all such classes. All such classes. In the case of the appellant, we find that his promotion to his admission to part 3 of the course was not dehors the rules, as the proviso to clause 7 of the examination regulation clearly specifies that a student shall be admitted to the highest class of part 3 if he has passed class part 1 examination. First off, there is no dispute that the appellant had passed the part 1 examination in the first instance. First off, the only difficulty which the appellant has faced is because he has not passed his part 2 examination within 3 consecutive examinations held for part 2. First off, there has been a gap of a year. There has been a gap of a year. First off, however, considering the fact that the appellant has passed part 2 examination simultaneously or before his passing the part 3 examination, we find that non-publication of the result of the appellant would put him to undue hardship, which is not contemplated in the examination rules, and if so ordered, it would hardly be violative of Article 14 of the Constitution of India or of giving any stamp of approval on departure of any rule of the examination. First up. Looking at the facts of the case of the appellant from this angle, we find we are not able to sustain the order of the learned single judge, who has refused the request of the appellant for a direction to the respondent university for publication of his final result. Taking into account the fact that the appellant has not performed miserably, as he had failed in 2 subjects in part 2 in the first attempt, and then in 1 subject in the second attempt, but finally passed part 2 examination prior to his passing the part 3 examination, and that his promotion and that his admission in part 3 even before finally clearing part 2 examination was not dehors the rules, we direct the university to publish the result of the appellant.
एक लाइन अगर लिखा देंगे रेगुलेशन 8 भी लिखा देंगे ना, उसमें है कि someone is prevented from taking any examination, तो उसमें भी 3 ही साल है हुजूर. हमको तो सेव करेंगे ना, हमारा आर्गुमेंट लिखा देंगे ना.
Mr. Ritesh Kumar, learned counsel appearing for the university, has however submitted that no concession could have been given under the rules to any student who has failed to clear the examination within 3 consecutive attempts,
or has not appeared, chosen not to appear,
or has chosen not to appear in 3 consecutive attempts. First up, considering the facts of the present case, we have passed the aforesaid order, keeping in mind the future of the student and the academic environment of the university.
एक लाइन खाली
The piece stands allowed accordingly.
एक जो ऑनरेबल डीबी का जजमेंट है उसको रेफर कर देंगे, क्या है कि हम
We have decided this case.
it is our duty, my lords, to point
What
out
is
that,
that DB case?
my lords, that is by
Tell
Honorable
us, we have
Justice,
gone on a different fact
my lords,
situation.
Honorable Justice A.P. Sahi and Honorable Justice Srimati Anjana Mishra, my lord.
What has he
They
said?
have also considered that beyond regulation result cannot be published.
No, हमने लिख दिया.
It is
We are
reported in
conscious-
2000.
We are passing order under clause 10, under
My lords,
clause 10
my
of
lords,
the letters patent. It is
I am
not
re-
akin to 142
I am
of the
requesting my lords to,
Constitution of India, but
I am
we have done.
requesting my lords to allow that, but at least my submission should be
ठीक
recorded.
है, उसी में वो लिख लेना हमसे.
2020,
Citation दीजिए.
2020 volume 4
2020 volume 4
PLJR
PLJR
129.
129. चलिए.